once again to the show. And I know that, as always, you have been waiting for Newsfile to come on. And thank God, here we are. Now, I'll just introduce my guests who are in the studio right now to you. There are two of them as we wait for two others who should join us shortly. And my guests this morning are Clara Berry Kasati. She is a lawyer and teaches the law at Gimpa. Good morning, Clara, and welcome to Newsfile.
Thank you.
Also, Pius Enam Hajide. I hope that this time I got it right.
You did.
The last time I did it. Right. Okay. Good to have you as always.
Good to be here, my brother.
Right. He's Deputy Minister of Sports, and will be joined shortly by George Lowe, who is also a lawyer and former MP for North Dai. Then Dr. Franklin Odro, who is Head of Research and Programs and Deputy Director at the CDD. Now, as you know, a number of issues in this country in the course of the week, but more prominently, that will engage our attention will be the collapse or closure of the two banks, UT and Capital Banks, and their takeover by the GCB Bank. What the central bank has been doing in the process, including freezing the accounts of, or blocking the accounts of directors and managers key in those entities, and expectations that there may be some prosecutions to follow as a result. But more importantly, they say that depositors' funds are secured. Questions have been raised whether or not the Bank of Ghana, the GCB, needed to have gone to at least an emergency sort of meeting with its shareholders to determine to take over this bank, and whether or not we are not putting GCB also in a situation that could also bring it some trouble. A lot of questions have been raised. We'll seek to some answers to these questions, and of course, we will go to the Council of States. As we understand, they are seeking some more powers to be able to do beyond what we know now, and the Supreme Court recently confirmed that the advice is advice. The president is not bound by their advice. So what's their use? That's a question that's been asked. President Kufuor has some views on that. President Rawlings has also some views on that. You know President Kufuor's views. They have been entrenched for a very long time. He wishes that they be elevated to a second chamber that will try to check Parliament itself. And then teachers, of course, they are now, Council of State is seeking to approve a process that will lead towards the creation of 6 new regions. Is this prudent? Do we need 6 regions in this country in addition to the 10? And we will also look at teachers and the problems that they are raising about attempts to have them to procure licenses. But first, we go to Sierra Leone. Very unfortunate developments there. There's been flood. There's been a mudslide that has led to over 400 lives. The Al Jazeera, for example, quotes 409 lives that have been lost. Other news networks, CNN, for example, quotes over 460 lives that have been lost. And some others also state some other figures. But safely, we can say over 400 lives have been lost and have been buried, and property swept away, and also 600 more cannot be accounted for. For those of you who have the benefit of the television, you're watching some pictures of the mudslide in Sierra Leone that has devastated that country. And as I said earlier, our president, they say they very much appreciate our president calling the president and sympathizing and mourning with the country. But beyond that, they can always count on Ghana. And as always, we are heading there with $6 million worth of supplies. And there's more that's being mobilized by other entities in the country through the Foreign Affairs Ministry for Sierra Leone. So, shall we look at Sierra Leone briefly and if there are any lessons that we can also look up to in this country. I'll start with the Deputy Minister, Pius. Yes, what do you say about what is going on in Sierra Leone now and how we are trying to be of assistance?
Well, thank you very much. Let me begin by saying good morning to your good self, my colleague here, and then our listeners and viewers across the country and beyond. And Senior, allow me to insist that you introduce me next time as Deputy Minister for Youth and Sports.
Rather than just sports.
Just sports.
Thank you.
It is
right
critical that we find a fair balance.
That's it.
We have been accused as the ministry of overly focusing on sports, much to the neglect of the youth.
And we think sports, the accusation is that soccer.
Yes.
and soccer means Black Stars.
That's right. So we are trying very hard to find and maintain a fair balance between youth mobilization and sports development. It is critical. If we are able to do that properly, you know that the population dynamics we have in this country, a lot of Ghanaians are youth, and we have daunting challenges. So if we are able to play our part, and inshallah we shall play our part and succeed in mobilizing and developing the youth, we'll be contributing greatly to the development of this country. So I urge that all of us, even now, begin the conscientization that now there is a fair balance between youth mobilization and sports development.
Duly noted.
I thank you very much.
Right.
Now, on the issue of Sierra Leone, let me begin by expressing the condolence of the government and people of Ghana to the good people of Sierra Leone. This is a difficult time for our brothers in Sierra Leone, and our hearts remain with them as they go through these challenges. Sierra Leone has been, if you may, unfortunate in contemporary history. They have had a very devastating civil war. Remember the shortcut and long sleeve and short sleeve issue. After that, they tried to put themselves together and start working again. Then there was this Ebola pandemic that they have had to struggle with. The whole world, including Ghana, was there to support. Even the Ebola Response Center was established here in Ghana, and they were mobilizing from here and dispatching. And then, unfortunately, this mudslide and flood sweeping away human beings and houses and cars into the sea. And you're right that over 400 lives are reportedly lost already. Several are reported missing. And it is a difficult moment. And like His Excellency the President has done, shown leadership, called his colleague, President Ernest Bai Koroma, and expressed the sentiments of himself and that of the people of Ghana, was reassuring. And you are right, I have engaged with a few Sierra Leonean friends who have appreciated the gesture and even asked that other West African, and world leaders do the same. And not only have we left it at that important telephone call from His Excellency the President, but we have actually gone ahead to try to mobilize support. Our National Disaster Management people have been roped in. It is an attempt that is being led by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And so we can report that we are able to mobilize aid almost to the tune of $1 million US, and that has been dispatched to our brothers in Sierra Leone. These include food, includes clothing, includes some first aid medications, some blankets, and some beds for temporary accommodation and all that. His Excellency the Vice President himself, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, today is scheduled to visit Sierra Leone and to commiserate with the people of Sierra Leone. So we also want to use the opportunity to even appeal to individuals and philanthropists who want to also come to the aid of the people of Sierra Leone to make contact with our Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I do know that a desk has been established there to try to mobilize private and individual support.
If you're having any difficulty at all, you can call Joy FM and we'll direct you how to get your stuff to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for onward, transmission to Sierra Leone.
Absolutely. This is good news. It is these kinds of partnership that we are always calling for, that the media, you are important stakeholders in all of these issues of governance, issues of letting the people understand what needs to be done and has to be done. So I am happy that Joy FM is also available and ready to facilitate.
Okay. So just hold on briefly, and let's hear from Clara also. And I'm proud that I hear the leaders in Sierra Leone speak, so well of Ghana. And they have actually singled Ghana out of the countries within the sub-region as a country that has always shown that we are more than brothers to them. And they are very appreciative of that. They have said so now, and are actually hoping that we will come once again helping them. ECOWAS has donated 200 million or thousand worth US dollars to them, and is taking care of the Red Cross services that will be provided and so on. But we know that it is such a trying time for them. Over 3,000 people are estimated to have lost their homes. 3,000.
Samson, that is very true, and good morning to our viewers and listeners. Let me first of all also start by showing my concern and solidarity with the people of Sierra Leone in this very trying time. And like you said, Ghana once more is leading the way. I think we should congratulate our president for the leadership that he has shown. Sierra Leone's problem is Africa's problem.
Right.
And once again, Ghana is at the forefront. Ghana has been at the forefront of African problems for a long time now. Ghana still continues to be the shining star, the black star of Africa that gives hope. I think we shouldn't go away from that role. It's a role that we are currently bearing very well. What I would say is that other African countries should support Ghana in the affairs of Sierra Leone. I think, like I said, this is Africa's problem. Sierra Leone's problem is Africa's problem. Also because if you look at, apart from the disaster that we are all sad about, there are certain issues that we cannot run away from. And if we look at the issues that probably caused or that resulted in so many loss of lives, because, for example, there was no forecast, it is reported. Yeah. So there was no time to evacuate people. Apart from the fact that there was no time to evacuate people, of course, so if there was a forecast, probably some people could have been evacuated. It is also reported from the media that it's more or less like there is fear that there might be outbreak of diseases, and it appears that there is no way forward.
Cholera and Ebola.
Cholera and Ebola. And from the media reports that I get, you do not see a concrete plan, a contingency plan that is ready to deal with the situation if it happens. And that, again, is Africa's problem. We had our own disaster. We swore that it won't happen again. But if you look at the way we are living afterwards, should it happen, would we be better off than we were several years ago? So yes, disasters happen everywhere, but I think that it is time that Africa must get together, and we can. I believe that we can solve our problems. We just are not making enough effort. I think this is the time that Africa should lead and let the rest of the world support. We can't always be looking outside for people to help us solve our problems. We can take the lead in solving our problems and then let the world support. So yes, Ghana has done well. Once more, we should be proud that we are standing with Sierra Leone in this hard time. We should be calling other African countries to stand together with Sierra Leone in this hard time. And I believe that if the world sees that we are doing our best, which we can, the world will come to our support. So this shouldn't just be about giving them support and then giving them items, but the problem, the fear of the outbreak of a disease, for example, is something that I'm sure we have the expertise on the continent to be able to put together a workable plan to contain
Judge
any
Lowe to the show.
such.
Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Good morning.
Right. Great.
Okay. So to contain any such eventuality. So I would say once again that we've relaxed for too long. I think it is time that we work a little bit harder at solving the problems that confront us, at dealing with the issues that face us as a people. And so that would be my
okay.
On the issue.
George, if I may ask you, would you think that some members of the minority perhaps spoke too early when they suggested that government's, response to Sierra Leone was uninspiring, and among others, Mr. Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa is reported to have said that for government to request the citizenry to support with clothing and other items, that request was lifeless, and that it must show leadership by sending government support first before appealing to the citizenry. Appears to have spoken ahead.
Well, thank you once again. Good morning. Good morning, Clara. I haven't seen you in a long time. And then good morning, my brother, Pius. And then good morning to our cherished viewers. I think that if you put Mr. Okudzeto's statement in context, then you would not say that he had spoken a bit too early. When the event happened, it was a disaster. And our expectation is that we needed collectively as Africans to move in as swiftly as possible to be able to deal with the situation. And we got I think it was yesterday that the ministry issued a statement, to the effect that the government was taking some initiative. Prior to that, the call was citizens should come together. And we thought that, it should have been a government-led program. And
Dr. Franklin Odro, thank you for joining us, sir.
The examples are, the precedents are there for us. I mean, this is not the first time Ghana is intervening, even in Sierra Leone itself. You remember that when the Ebola thing came, government showed leadership. We offered our country as a hub, for evacuation of medical. There are a lot of things all led by government. So we thought that the first point would have been that immediately government, whatever you have, you go in there. And then, well, if you want supplementary ones, then you call on this. I think that, having said that, government had a rethink and decided that, okay.
You think it was a rethink?
I mean, that is how I can position. I think
the Ghanaian government is within ECOWAS, is it not? ECOWAS had made $200,000
yes,
donation, right?
But if Ghana's intervention was not important, then we would not have added the 1 million supplies that we're talking about. So I'm saying that government, has quickly come in after the call that they should lead, and that is the most important thing. The most important thing is that now Ghana once again is showing that they stand with their friends when they are
at the time the minority statement was made. The president had already called his colleague. You don't know what they discussed.
You see, whatever we are saying is that what was in the public domain was that, hey, citizens, let's mobilize and go to Sierra Leone. We thought that for us, it should have been the other way around. And so if we have come full scale, I don't have a problem. I think the most important thing we need today is that we are standing with our friends in Sierra Leone.
Right.
And that I think that we should pat ourselves in the back, that once again, in their time of need, we have shown that we are true friends. Even as this unfolded.
In fact, what Okudzeto was proposing was that we should have actually sent some military personnel there to help in the rescue efforts.
Well, it would have been wonderful if we did that as well. I mean, and then I heard my sister Clara talk about that. I mean, we should have an all-encompassing African response. We shouldn't just be waiting to a disaster and then individual countries. No. I think that we should even have possibly an African response center for some of these things, and where we have our military people there and things like that. And then once it happens, even before other countries can make individual interventions, that force should go in there because they don't have the expertise, and it shows clearly. Of course, maybe because also they've been through these trying times over and over and over again. They are depleted in terms of energy. They are depleted in terms of resources.
Well, unless there's an assessment that suggests that the ECOWAS, intervention, which is paying for Red Cross personnel and everything else, is insufficient.
But I wanted to land on a very funny note.
Okay.
But what I find very interesting is that government response to our own local situations is worrying. And we must, look, the Northern's flood that happened, it took over a week for supplies to get there. And I think that is not good enough. I think that's not good enough. We must demonstrate at home also that we can rise up to
one of my producers.
I've heard her.
You heard her.
I've heard her, but
Matilda Omega. She said what you said is not true.
No, but that is true.
And you know what? She spoke ahead of myself because that is not true. That so it took over a week before they could intervene in the area.
Listen, Samson. You see, I may have said that it took over a week, but in context, I'm saying that the response was not rapid enough. That's all I wanted to say. I thought that we should have been faster in terms of response. And then also there's the learning, it's a learning curve for us. Now that is happening in other countries, we don't know when it will hit us. So I think that we should fetch water and put by our burning.
Right. And Doc,
so that,
just wait. Okay. You guys don't turn it into a game of politics.
No problem.
Doc, like he mentioned, in Sierra Leone, in parts of the area, particularly Waterloo, we understand this is a ritual, an annual ritual, except that it's never been on this scale. It's just like, you know, a little drizzle in Accra and it's flooded and you can't drive. So we should also be looking at getting ready, right?
Well, first of all, good morning to you and to my colleagues, Honorable and Deputy Minister for Youth and Sports. I heard you say we should emphasize on youth. And let me also apologize to you and the platform for coming late. I miscalculated my timing.
You've never been late to this show.
Yeah, I know. First, and then secondly, I think I want to associate myself with the comments that have been made by my colleagues here. I think Sierra Leone is one country that has suffered a lot. I have spoken to a few of my friends in Freetown to check on them and their families. And they report that are coming. The reports are very disturbing. But I don't want to delve deep into what Ghana should do or should not do. I think, you know, Honorable and others have really spoken on that issue. But in terms of lessons learned, it raises several questions for us and indeed for many African countries in terms of our emergency response approach. I read that a professor from University of Ghana Remote Sensing Department suggesting that Ghana is likely to experience something like that as Sierra Leone has experienced. The question is, how ready are we? Honorable was trying to talk about NADMO and Northern Ghana. I think generally speaking, we have been very bad in terms of disaster management. Africans, Ghanaians generally will try to attribute some of these things to the act of God and, you know, let's pray about it. But we also need to be very scientific about some of these things. If it did happen in the city that you mentioned, the town that you mentioned, several times in the past, the question is, what are Sierra Leone's emergency team done about it? What have they planned that, even though it may be happening on the lower scale, did they think about what if it happens on a big scale as it has happened today? How are we going to respond to that? What is going to be our way of dealing with such disasters? And I think that this is something that we have to also draw lesson from that. What is the nature of NADMO? Have we thought about all of these potential disasters that can happen in Ghana? I think we do have problems with even managing floods. I don't think we've been able to deal with that except for talking almost all the time and raising plans are far advanced. We are about to do this, we are going to, you know, all kinds of things. But I think we need to see some real measures and systems put in place in Ghana and indeed in many African countries to deal with some of these things. And I think I kind of agree with Honorable George Lowe in terms of African response, or we do have some response in terms of military intervention, but what about disasters? Is there a fund that even if some of these things takes place, we can tap into, or we now have to go hand in cap and begging for others to come in. So I think we need to draw lessons from that.
Okay, thank
So
you.
if
Yes, quickly.
Yes, I just wanted to assure my senior brother,
Judge Lo, you mean?
Yes, Judge Lo, that government was mobilizing at the same time that the announcement was made on ordinary Ghanaians. The two are not mutually exclusive and can happen together. Let me also assure you that even the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, played a major role in mobilizing this initial ECOWAS response. He has had to reach across the ECOWAS neighborhood to mobilize support. So government was mobilizing on its own, even when the statement was made that Ghanaians should also come to the I do agree.
But you suggest that the statements of the official statement by government, having come after such comments, suggests that you were now taking a cue.
Well, but I am assuring him that you see, and for him who may not be in Parliament today, I can excuse. But for my other colleague, Honorable Okujeto, who is a member of Parliament and in fact ranking member on Foreign Affairs, I thought that there was, even before speaking to the media, there was always the opportunity for him to find out what government was doing on the matter. But sometimes, like Samson rightly said, we rush and talk ahead of ourselves, only to be exposed after the facts. So that is my problem.
Okay.
Again, I think that on the issue of but that has been dealt with, how we responded to the disaster in Tamale, I think that you are behind the news, but I'm sure that has been cleared. And we can leave it at that.
Okay. Okay.
Don't be argumentative.
All right.
The facts have been established.
Since you said you don't want to, then don't just do it. Okay. Thank you very much. You're still here on Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis show. And here on Newsfile, you know, we put Ghana first. And this is what I do. We'll take a first break very quick, and we'll return to a very major topic for discussion this morning. The two banks. We understand some of the accounts of some of the managers and directors that were frozen. Some of them have been defrosing. We'll be right back. We'll discuss what is to be expected next.